The old ship's metal walls creaked as it drifted through the darkness of space. Captain Tom Reed sat in his worn leather chair on the bridge of the Horizon Seeker, staring at the strange message that kept flashing on his screen. For the past 3 days, his ship's computers had been picking up weird signals that didn't make any sense. At first, he thought it was just space junk interfering with their systems. That happened a lot in this part of space. But these signals were different. "Captain, you need to see this," called Maria Torres, his chief engineer. Her voice had that excited tone she only got when she found something really important. Reed pushed himself out of his chair and floated through the low-gravity environment to her workstation. Maria's fingers flew across her keyboard as she pulled up several windows of data. "Look at these patterns," she said, pointing to a series of repeating numbers. "They're not random. They're old Earth code. Really old. I'm talking pre-space age old." Reed leaned closer, his gray eyes narrowing as he studied the screen. In all his years of deep space salvage, he'd never seen anything like this. "Can you decode it?" "Already working on it," Maria said, brushing her dark hair away from her face. "But that's not even the weird part. These signals, they're coming from somewhere ahead of us. Way ahead of us. Like beyond the mapped systems ahead of us." The bridge fell quiet except for the constant hum of the ship's engines. Reed felt a familiar tingle in his spine, the same feeling he got right before finding something valuable. In the salvage business, instincts like that often meant the difference between striking it rich and going home empty-handed. "How long until you can crack it?" he asked. Maria shrugged. "Give me a few hours. Whatever this is, someone went to a lot of trouble to hide it." Reed nodded and pushed off back to his chair. He looked around his bridge. Small but efficient, just like his 5-person crew. The Horizon Seeker wasn't pretty, but she was good at her job. They made their living finding and selling space junk, old tech, and anything else of value they could get their hands on. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. The next few hours passed slowly. Reed tried to focus on their current job, salvaging parts from an abandoned mining operation, but his mind kept drifting back to the strange signal. In 2457, most people thought they'd found everything there was to find in this part of space. The human colonies had spread out across dozens of star systems, sharing the space with 3 other alien civilizations they'd met along the way. It wasn't always peaceful, but they made it work. "Got it." Maria's excited shout broke through his thoughts. Reed wasn't the only one who came running. The rest of the crew dropped what they were doing and gathered around her station. "Their coordinates," Maria explained, her eyes bright with excitement. "But that's not all. There's a message with them. Well, you should probably read it yourself." Reed leaned forward as Maria pulled up the decoded text on her screen. The message was simple, but it made his heart beat faster. "To those who find this, the Guardian waits. Humanity's shield sleeps until needed. Follow these coordinates only if you're ready for the truth." "The Guardian?" Bob, their security officer, asked. "Isn't that just an old story? Something they made up to make kids feel safer during the First War?" Reed had heard the stories too. Everyone had. The legend said that during humanity's first interstellar war, Earth's best scientists and engineers had built something in secret, a defensive system so powerful it could protect all of human space, but no one had ever found any proof it existed. After the war ended, the story became just another space tale, something salvagers talked about during long trips between jobs. "These coordinates are real though," Maria said. "They point to a specific location in unexplored space, about 2 weeks' travel from here." Reed stood quiet for a moment, thinking. They had a job to finish here, and their fuel tanks were only half full. Following unknown coordinates into unexplored space was exactly the kind of thing that got salvage crews killed. But if there was even a small chance the Guardian was real, "What do you think, Captain?" James, their pilot, asked. Reed could see the same excitement in his eyes that he felt in his own chest. Before Reed could answer, The ship's warning system started blaring. Red lights flashed across the bridge as their radar picked up multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel nearby. 3 ships, Bob reported, checking his security screens. Big ones, moving fast. He paused, his face going pale. "Captain, they're Dominion ships." Everyone on the bridge tensed. The Stellar Dominion was the newest alien civilization humans had met, and they weren't friendly. They saw humans as weak, primitive, barely worth noticing except as targets. They hadn't started a war yet, but everyone knew it was just a matter of time. "They're scanning us," Maria reported, her fingers dancing across her keyboard. "I'm trying to hide the signal data, but..." "Too late," Bob cut in. "They're heading straight for us." Reed made his decision. "James, plot a course for those coordinates. Maria, send everything you decoded to my private server, then wipe your system. Bob, get our weapons online. Not that they'll do much good against Dominion ships, but maybe we can slow them down." "You want to run?" Bob asked, though he was already powering up their defensive systems. "We want to lead them away from here," Reed corrected him. "If the Guardian is real, if there's even a chance, we can't let the Dominion find it first." The crew moved fast, each person knowing their job. The Horizon Seeker might not have been the newest or prettiest ship in space, but she was quick and her crew knew how to handle her. Within minutes, they were accelerating away from the salvage zone, their engines pushed to maximum power. "Dominion ships are following," Bob reported. "They're gaining." "Of course they are," Reed muttered. "Their ships cost more than we'll make in 10 lifetimes. He keyed on the ship's intercom. "Listen up, everyone. We've got a choice to make. Those coordinates might lead to nothing. Probably lead to nothing. But if there's even a small chance they're real, we can't let the Dominion get there first. So we're going to run. And we're going to be clever about it. And we're going to find out if the greatest legend in human space is actually true." He looked around at his crew, people he'd worked with for years, people he trusted with his life. They all looked back at him with determination in their eyes. They knew the odds weren't good. Dominion ships were bigger, faster, and more powerful than their old salvage vessel. But humans had survived this long in space by being sneaky and resourceful. "James," Reed called to his pilot, "plot us a course through the Thorson debris field. Let's see how those fancy Dominion ships handle a little obstacle course." As the Horizon Seeker changed course, heading for a massive field of space junk and broken ships, Reed couldn't help but smile. If the Guardian was real, if they actually found it, well, that would change everything. And if it wasn't real, they'd still give the Dominion a chase they'd never forget. The ship's engines hummed louder as they accelerated, pushing deeper into space, carrying with them a secret that had waited hundreds of years to be found. Behind them, the Dominion ships followed, their massive forms cutting through space like predators chasing prey. But they didn't understand what they were really chasing. Not yet. They thought they were just hunting down another weak human ship. They were about to learn that sometimes the best secrets hide in the most ordinary places, and that legends, even the oldest ones, sometimes turn out to be true. The Horizon Seeker shuddered as another piece of space debris scraped against its hull. Inside the bridge, warning lights flashed as James guided the ship through the dangerous maze of broken ships and twisted metal. The Thorson debris field stretched out before them like a graveyard of forgotten vessels, each piece telling its own story of disaster or abandonment. "How are our friends doing back there?" Reed asked, gripping his chair as the ship made another sharp turn. Bob checked his screens. 2 of the Dominion ships are still with us. The third one hit something big. They're falling behind. He managed a small smile. Turns out their fancy ships don't handle tight spaces very well. Reed nodded, but he knew they weren't safe yet. The Horizon Seeker was built for this kind of work, picking through debris fields, squeezing through tight spaces. But they couldn't keep this up forever. Their fuel was running low, and the constant maneuvering was putting stress on their engines. Maria's voice came through the ship's comm system. "Captain, I need you in the engine room. There's something you should see." Reed found her buried deep in the ship's computer core, surrounded by holographic displays showing lines of code. She didn't look up as he floated in. "I've been studying more of that old transmission," she said. "It's not just coordinates. There's more, a lot more." She pulled up a new screen, showing what looked like technical diagrams. These were hidden deeper in the code. Their designs, Captain. Parts of them, anyway. And they're incredible. Reed looked at the diagrams, trying to make sense of them. "What am I looking at? If I'm reading this right, it's part of the Guardian's defensive systems. The technology, it's like nothing I've ever seen. It's way beyond anything we have now, maybe even beyond what the Dominion has." She paused, her eyes bright with excitement. "Captain, if this is real, if the Guardian actually exists, it's not just some old defense platform. It's something completely different." Before Reed could respond, the ship rocked violently. Bob's voice crackled over the comm. "Captain, we've got problems. One of the Dominion ships just fired some kind of energy pulse. Our rear shields are down." Reed grabbed a handrail to steady himself. "James, get us deeper into the debris field. Maria, I need you back on the engines. Keep them running no matter what." As Reed rushed back to the bridge, he could feel his ship struggling. The Horizon Seeker was tough, but she wasn't built for combat. They needed something else, some other way out. "There," James pointed at his navigation screen. "About 20,000 kilometers ahead. There's a gas cloud. If we can reach it, maybe we can lose them in there." "A gas cloud." Bob looked worried. "That'll mess with our sensors. We'll be flying blind." "They'll be flying blind too," Reed said. "Do it, James." The Horizon Seeker changed course, heading for the massive purple-tinged cloud. Behind them, the Dominion ships fired again, but this time the shots went wide, destroying chunks of debris instead of hitting their target. As they entered the gas cloud, their sensors started going crazy. Static filled their communications, and their navigation systems became unreliable. The view outside their windows turned into a swirling purple fog. "Kill all external lights," Reed ordered. "Minimal power to engines. Let's drift for a bit, see if they follow us in." The crew waited in tense silence. Minutes passed. Finally, Bob spoke up. "I'm picking up some distorted readings. I think they're staying at the edge of the cloud. They're not following us in." Reed allowed himself a small smile. The Dominion ships were powerful, but their commanders were cautious. They wouldn't risk their expensive vessels in a dangerous gas cloud just to chase down one small salvage ship. "Maria," Reed called over the comm. "How are the engines?" "They need a break," she replied. "That last chase pushed them pretty hard. But I've got something else. While we're stuck here, I managed to decode more of that transmission. Captain, you really need to see this." This time, Maria brought the information to the bridge. She pulled up a series of images on the main screen. Old photographs and videos from Earth's first interstellar war. They showed people working on something massive, something being built in secret. "These were embedded in the transmission too," Maria explained. "They're records from the Guardian project. Look at the dates. These are from right before the war ended, right before the Guardian disappeared." The crew gathered around, watching as the images played across their screen. They showed glimpses of the Guardian itself, a station bigger than anything humanity had built before or since, filled with technology that shouldn't have been possible at that time. "But why hide it?" James asked. "If we had something this powerful, why not use it to end the war?" "Maybe that's not what it was for," Maria said quietly. "Look at this." She pulled up another file, this one containing text. It's part of a message from the project leader. It says, "The Guardian was never meant to be a weapon. It's a shield, yes, but more than that. It's a promise that humanity will always have a future, no matter what comes. But it must wait. Wait until we're ready to understand what it really is." Reed stared at the words, feeling their weight. And now, over 100 years later, we might be the ones to find it. He looked at his crew. If we survive long enough to reach those coordinates. The ship's sensors beeped, drawing their attention. "The Dominion ships are moving away," Bob reported. "I think they're giving up the chase. For now, anyway." "Good," Reed said. "James, take us deeper into the cloud, nice and slow. We'll wait here for a while, make sure they're really gone. Then we'll make our run for those coordinates." He turned to Maria. "In the meantime, see what else you can pull from that transmission. I want to know everything we can about what we're heading into." As the Horizon Seeker drifted through the purple haze, its crew worked in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. They had survived the chase, but they all knew this was just the beginning. The Dominion would be looking for them now, and they had a long journey ahead through unexplored space. But they also had something else. Hope. Hope that the legends were true, that the Guardian was real. And if it was, if they could find it, well, maybe those old project leaders were right. Maybe now was finally the time for humanity to understand what their ancestors had built, hidden away in the darkness of space, waiting for the right moment to change everything. 2 weeks of careful travel through unexplored space had taken their toll on the Horizon Seeker and her crew. The ship's engines grumbled more than usual, and their food supplies were running low. But none of that mattered now, because there it was, right in front of them, exactly where the coordinates said it would be. "That's impossible," Bob whispered, staring at the massive structure floating in the darkness of space. "It's bigger than a space station." The Guardian hung silent against the backdrop of stars, its dark metal surface absorbing nearly all light. It was shaped like a giant wheel with spokes running to a central hub, but parts of it seemed to shift and change even as they watched, as if it couldn't quite decide on its final form. "No wonder they had to hide it," James said from his pilot's seat. "Something this big. Everyone would have wanted it." Reed studied the readings on his screen. No power signatures, no signs of active systems. If there's anything still working in there, it's running on minimal power. He turned to Maria. "Can you get any more detailed scans?" Maria shook her head. "There's some kind of interference, like it's blocking our scans, even though it looks powered down." She paused, checking another reading. "But I am picking up an open docking port. We could go inside." Reed considered their options. They had found the Guardian, but now what? The massive structure looked dead, and they had no idea how to wake it up, or if they even should. But they had come too far to turn back now. "Suit up," he ordered. "We're going in. James, take us to that docking port, nice and slow. Bob, keep watching our backs. The Dominion lost us 2 weeks ago, but I don't want any surprises." 20 minutes later, Reed led Maria and Bob through the Guardian's docking port, while James stayed behind to watch the ship. The moment they stepped inside, lights flickered to life along the corridors, responding to their presence. "Motion sensors still work," Maria said, checking her hand scanner. "And there's air. The life support systems are still running, just on very low power." They moved deeper into the station, their footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. Everything was clean. No dust, no signs of age or decay. It was as if the Guardian had been waiting, preserved in perfect condition, for someone to find it. "Look at these walls," Bob said, running his hand along the smooth surface. "The metal, it's changing color where I touch it, like it's reacting to body heat." Maria scanned the wall. "It's not just metal. The whole station seems to be made of some kind of smart material. It can change its properties based on what's needed." She looked around in wonder. "This is way beyond anything we have now. This shouldn't have been possible 100 years ago." They found their way to what looked like a control room. As they entered, more lights came on, and holographic displays sprang to life around them. Maria immediately went to work on the nearest console. "The system's waking up," she reported. but slowly, like it's being careful. There's something else too. I'm picking up a massive power source at the center of the station. It's just starting to activate. That's when they heard it. A deep humming sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The walls around them shifted, patterns of light running through the metal like circuits coming to life. "Welcome, humans," a voice said, filling the room. It wasn't exactly male or female, but it was calm and clear. "I am Sentinel, the Guardian's control system. You have found us sooner than expected." Reed stepped forward. "You've been waiting for us." Waiting, watching, learning. Holographic images appeared around them, showing scenes from human history. They're spread across the stars, their encounters with alien races, their struggles and achievements. We needed to be sure humanity was ready. Before Reed could ask what they needed to be ready for, Bob's voice cut through the conversation. "Captain, we've got incoming. Multiple Dominion ships just dropped out of faster-than-light travel." The holographic displays change, showing the space around the station. 6 Dominion warships were approaching, their weapons already powering up. "They must have followed our trail," Maria said. "Maybe picked up our engine signature." Reed's mind raced. They had found the Guardian, but it was still waking up. They had no weapons, no defenses, and nowhere to run. "Sentinel," he said quickly, "the Dominion ships, they're hostile. They'll try to take the station." "Yes," Sentinel replied calmly. "This is an expected scenario. The Dominion's arrival presents an opportunity to demonstrate why the Guardian was created." The humming sound grew louder, and the metal walls around them seemed to pulse with energy. "Demonstration?" Reed asked. "The Guardian is not a weapon," Sentinel explained as more systems came online around them. "It is an adaptive defense system, designed to protect without destroying. Watch and understand why your ancestors chose to hide us until now." The Dominion ships were closing fast, their weapons charging. The first ship fired, sending a powerful energy beam straight at the Guardian. But before the beam could hit, the space around the station seemed to bend and twist. The energy weapon dispersed harmlessly, its power absorbed into nothing. "Impossible," Bob exclaimed, watching the sensor readings. "They hit us with enough firepower to crack a planet, and it just disappeared." "Not disappeared," Sentinel corrected. "Transformed. The Guardian does not simply defend. It learns, adapts, and evolves. Every attack makes it stronger, adds to its understanding." The station hummed with power now, its walls flowing like liquid metal. "Observe." The Dominion ships fired again, this time all at once. But their weapons had no more effect than before. Instead, the energy from their attacks seemed to flow through the Guardian's structure, making it glow with borrowed power. "Let us show them a better way," Sentinel said. The space around the Dominion ships suddenly lit up with thousands of tiny points of light. Their weapons went dead, their engines stopped, and their ships hung motionless in space. "What did you do to them?" Reed asked, watching in amazement. "Taught them the futility of their attack," Sentinel replied. "Their weapons and engines will restart shortly. But now they understand. They cannot harm us, and we choose not to harm them. This is the Guardian's true purpose, not to destroy, but to protect. Not to win wars, but to prevent them." As they watched, the Dominion ship systems came back online. For a moment, they hung in space, as if considering another attack. Then, one by one, they turned and disappeared back into faster-than-light travel. "They're running," Bob said, disbelief in his voice. "No," Sentinel corrected. "They are learning. And now, humans, it is time for you to learn as well. Your ancestors built us not just as a shield, but as a gift to their descendants. The Guardian is more than a station. It is the key to understanding technologies your people have only dreamed of, technologies that could change everything." Reed looked around at the living metal walls, the impossible defenses, the power to turn aside planet-killing weapons without firing a shot. "Why now?" he asked. Why show yourself to us?" "Because you were curious enough to look," Sentinel replied. "Brave enough to come this far, and wise enough to understand that the greatest power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the choice not to. Now shall we begin your education?" Reed looked at his crew, saw the same wonder and excitement in their eyes that he felt. They had found more than just an old legend. They had found humanity's next great step forward, and it had been waiting for them all along, hidden in the darkness of space, ready to change everything. The news of the Guardian's discovery spread across human space faster than any faster-than-light ship could travel. Within days, the once quiet region of unexplored space had become the center of attention for every species in known space. Ships from all three human-allied alien civilizations arrived to witness the legend that had suddenly become real. Inside the Guardian, Reed and his crew watched as Sentinel showed them wonders they had never imagined possible. The control room had become their classroom, and the lessons were beyond anything they could have expected. "Your ancestors understood something important," Sentinel explained as it showed them a holographic display of the station's inner workings. "The best technology doesn't just solve problems, it prevents them from happening in the first place." Maria stood transfixed as she watched the station's smart metal reshape itself, forming new structures and then dissolving them back into its base form. "It's like it's alive," she said. "The whole station is one big living machine." "Close," Sentinel replied, "but not quite correct. The Guardian is not alive in the way you understand life. We are evolving, constantly changing, learning, adapting. Every new experience adds to what we are." Bob, who had been quiet for a while, suddenly spoke up. "They're back." Everyone turned to look at the sensor displays. A massive fleet of Dominion ships had just appeared at the edge of the system. Not just warships this time, but diplomatic vessels too. 57 ships, Bob reported, including their flagship. "Looks like we got their attention." Reed felt a moment of worry, but Sentinel seemed unconcerned. "They have come to learn," it said, "as have others." Look, more ships were appearing. Vessels from the three alien races that had allied with humanity. The space around the Guardian was becoming crowded with ships from 5 different species, all drawn by the station's power and mystery. "We're receiving transmission requests from all of them," James reported from the Horizon Seeker, which was still docked with the station. "Everyone wants to talk." Reed looked at Sentinel's holographic interface. "What do we do? We're just salvage crew. We're not diplomats." "You are more than that now," Sentinel replied. "You are the ones who found us, who proved worthy of awakening us. It is fitting that you help guide what comes next." The station hummed with power as it added, "Let us welcome them all." The Guardian's docking bays opened, offering space for ships from each species to dock. As the diplomatic parties came aboard, the station's corridors shifted and changed, creating meeting spaces that perfectly suited each species' needs. The first to arrive were the Dominion representatives. Their leader, Admiral Thresh, was a tall, imposing figure who carried himself with rigid pride. But there was uncertainty in his eyes as he looked around at the living metal walls. "Your technology," he said to Reed, trying to maintain his usual superior tone but failing. "It should not be possible." "It's not our technology," Reed replied. "It belongs to humanity's past, and now, maybe, to everyone's future." Sentinel's voice filled the room. "The Guardian was built by humans, yes, but its purpose extends to all species. Watch." The walls around them transformed, becoming a vast display of stars and planets. In the center, holographic representations of ships from all 5 species appeared. "Each of you," Sentinel explained, "has developed technology in your own way. The Dominion focused on weapons and defenses. Others chose different paths. But all of you have been limited by working alone." The holograms began to merge and change. Together, combining your knowledge with what the Guardian can teach, you could achieve so much more. The display showed impossible things, ships that could heal themselves like living things, energy shields that could protect entire solar systems, ways to travel between stars that made their fastest ships look slow. "This is why we waited," Sentinel continued. "Not just for humanity to be ready, but for all of you to be ready. To understand that the greatest achievements come not from conquest, but from cooperation." The other diplomatic parties arrived. The peaceful Varian scientists, the practical Ming traders, the curious Eltair explorers. Each brought their own questions, their own fears, their own hopes. Maria worked with the alien engineers, showing them what she had learned about the Guardian systems. Bob talked with their security teams, explaining how the station's defenses worked without destroying. James helped coordinate the growing fleet of ships around the station, making sure everyone had safe space to maneuver. And Reed found himself in the middle of it all, working with Sentinel to help everyone understand what the Guardian truly was. Not a weapon to be feared or fought over, but a teacher offering knowledge that could change everything. "Your ship survived quite a chase to find us," Sentinel said to Reed during a quiet moment. "Did you ever wonder why those coordinates were hidden in such an old transmission? Why they were found exactly when they were?" Reed had wondered about that. "You planned it. You sent out those coordinates. We have been watching, waiting for the right moment. When we saw your ship, small but resourceful, running from a superior force but choosing cleverness over violence, we knew the time had come." "But why us? We're nothing special." "That is where you are wrong," Sentinel replied. "You are exactly what your ancestors hoped humanity would become. Curious enough to look for ancient mysteries, brave enough to face powerful enemies, wise enough to understand that power is not just about strength." The Guardian continued to share its secrets over the next few days. Each revelation led to new questions, new possibilities. The Dominion's admiral gradually lost his arrogant attitude, especially after Sentinel showed how their weapons technology could be modified to protect planets from natural disasters instead of destroying them. The station's smart metal began to appear in small amounts on the ships docked with it, upgrading their systems in ways their builders had never imagined possible. The Horizon Seeker, Reed's old salvage ship, was among the first to receive these improvements. "Consider it a reward," Sentinel told them, "for being the ones to wake us up." As Reed watched his ship's hull slowly transform, becoming stronger and more alive than simple metal had any right to be, he thought about how much had changed in just a few days. They had started out as simple salvage crew chasing a legend. Now they were at the center of what might be the biggest change in human history since the discovery of faster-than-light travel. "Sentinel," he asked, "what happens now?" The Guardian's eye was quiet for a moment before responding. Now we begin the real work. Teaching, learning, growing. Together." The station's walls pulsed with soft light as it added, "Your ancestors built us to protect humanity's future, but they understood something that the Dominion, and many others, had forgotten. The best way to protect the future is to make it better for everyone." 6 months had passed since the Horizon Seeker first discovered the Guardian, and the changes across known space had been greater than anyone could have imagined. Reed stood at the viewing window of his ship, watching as another fleet of vessels gathered around the massive station. But these weren't warships or diplomatic vessels. They were research ships, carrying scientists and engineers from all 5 species, coming together to learn and share knowledge. The Horizon Seeker itself had changed. Its hull now shimmered with the same smart metal as the Guardian, and its systems had been upgraded far beyond their original capabilities. But Reed had kept the old ship's name, and much of its appearance, a reminder of where they had started. "Captain," James called from his pilot's station, "the new students are ready for today's lesson." Reed smiled at that. They weren't just a salvage crew anymore. They had become teachers, helping others understand the Guardian's gifts. Their experience as the first to encounter the station made them uniquely qualified to help others adapt to its incredible technologies. Inside the Guardian, Maria was already working with a mixed group of human and alien engineers. They gathered around a holographic display, showing the station's smart metal technology, watching in amazement as she demonstrated how it could be programmed to serve different purposes. "The key is understanding that it's not just about making things," she explained. "It's about making things that can change and grow as needed." She pressed her hand against a nearby wall, and the metal rippled in response, forming complex patterns that reflected her thoughts. In another section of the station, Bob was working with security teams from various worlds, including several Dominion officers who had once chased them across space. They were learning about the Guardian's defensive systems, not to copy them, but to understand the principles behind them. "Defense doesn't have to mean destruction," Bob told them, repeating what Sentinel had taught him. "Sometimes the best way to stop an attack is to make it pointless." Sentinel's presence filled the station as always, but it had changed too. Interaction with so many different species had caused it to evolve in new ways, developing better understanding of organic life and its complexities. "Your civilizations are learning faster than expected," it told Reed during one of their regular conversations. "The integration of Guardian technology has already prevented 3 potential conflicts and saved 2 colonies from natural disasters." Reed nodded. The changes had been dramatic but largely peaceful. The Dominion, once so eager for war, had found new purpose in helping develop protective systems for vulnerable worlds. The other species had each found their own ways to use the Guardian's teachings, always sharing their discoveries with the others. "There's something I've been wondering," Reed said to Sentinel. "That first chase, when the Dominion ships were after us, you could have stopped them right then, couldn't you? Why let us run all that way?" "Because the journey was important," Sentinel replied. "You needed to prove yourselves, not just to us, but to yourselves. And others needed to see that even a small salvage ship could achieve great things through determination and wisdom." A notification popped up on Reed's display. Another ship was approaching, this one from Earth itself. The new Human Council wanted to see the Guardian firsthand, to understand the gift their ancestors had left them. "They still don't quite believe it," Reed said, watching the Earth ship approach. "That our ancestors built something this advanced, this powerful, and chose to hide it away instead of using it. They built it precisely because they understood the responsibility that comes with such power," Sentinel explained. "They knew humanity needed time to grow, to learn, to make mistakes, and learn from them. And they knew that when the right time came, their descendants would need to share this knowledge, not hoard it." As if to demonstrate this point, the station's walls suddenly came alive with flowing patterns of light. In the main assembly area, representatives from all 5 species watched in wonder as the Guardian displayed new discoveries, ways to clean polluted worlds, to harvest energy from dying stars, to heal diseases that had plagued their peoples for generations. "Every discovery is shared," Sentinel continued. "Every advance benefits all. This is what your ancestors hoped for, not a weapon to win wars, but a tool to make them unnecessary." The Earth ship docked, and Reed went to meet the council members. As they stepped onto the station for the first time, their faces showed the same awe he had felt 6 months ago. The Guardian's living metal welcomed them, adjusting its environment to make them comfortable. "It's even more incredible than the report suggested," one council member said, watching the walls shift and flow around them. "This is just the beginning," Reed told them. "Every day we learn something new. Every day the Guardian shows us more of what's possible." He led them to the main control room, where Sentinel waited to greet Earth's leaders. As they walked, Reed thought about how much had changed. The Horizon Seeker had gone from hunting space junk to helping shape the future of 5 civilizations. His crew had become teachers and diplomats, helping others understand technologies that seemed like magic. And the Guardian itself had become exactly what its builders had hoped, not just a protector, but a guide to a better future. "Your ancestors left you more than just technology," Sentinel told the council members as they gathered in the control room. "They left you hope. Hope that different species could work together. Hope that knowledge could prevent conflict. Hope that the future could be better than the past." The station hummed with power as it displayed its latest gift. Plans for ships that could explore further than any had gone before, powered by technology that all 5 species had helped develop. "This is why we waited," Sentinel said. "Not just for humanity to find us, but for all of you to be ready to work together. To understand that the greatest achievements come not from one species working alone, but from many working as one." Reed looked out at the fleet of ships surrounding the Guardian. Research vessels, diplomatic ships, trading craft, all working together where once they might have fought. The legend they had chased across space had turned out to be more than just a powerful defense system. It was a key to unlocking a future that their ancestors had dreamed of but couldn't achieve alone. "So," he asked Sentinel, "what's our next lesson?" The Guardian's walls pulsed with light as it responded. "That depends on what you're ready to learn. The universe is vast, and there are more legends out there waiting to be found, more mysteries to solve, more chances to grow and change and become something greater than you are now." Reed smiled, thinking of the long chase that had led them here, the risks they had taken, the chances they had seized. They had found more than just an ancient legend. They had found a new beginning. And somewhere out in the darkness between the stars, he knew, other legends were waiting to be discovered by those brave enough to chase them, and wise enough to understand them. The Guardian would be there to help them find those legends, to unlock new mysteries, to keep pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Because that was what it had been built for, not just to protect humanity's future, but to help create it. One discovery, one lesson, one shared moment of wonder at a time.